intention in running for the presidency is preventing America from taking part in another world war.
There are so many who don't trust him.
And I'm gonna do my best to convince them otherwise.
Were you fans of the original book, and how did you sort of come to the project?
So I wasn't aware of the book when I was sent the script. I was just aware of the OG David Simon, because we had studied The Wire at school and stuff. You know, it was like part of our drama school education to look at The Wire as the pinnacle of TV. And when I found out he was making this and I was asked to audition for it, I was just overjoyed. And the role I just thought was just incredible.
We're both huge
Roth
heads.
Yeah.
We're Roth heads.
Yeah.
Rothians, yes.
Rothians.
I worked with him on a book when I was a younger man, and that he wanted me to do as a one-man show, which I performed a few times on book and then worked with him. And I have to say, it was like sitting in a room with a human vacuum cleaner. He just was like inhaling you. I mean, wow. I've been with a lot of talented, smart people, but he just his eyebrows, I have to say, just his eyebrows alone, just be like, he would say, "Tell me about yourself." Yes. And you just would feel like, you just, he said, he said, no, he asked me, "Do you have children?" Right? In the room, I said, "I have one boy." He goes, "Oh, so it's sort of over for you, isn't it?" And I was like, but he was really, really devilishly smart and really funny, really deeply funny. And there's the idea of, how do you assimilate? And so many of Roth's books are about assimilation and what people have to do in order to be considered American. A lot of people don't want to know that if you were Irish, when you came to this country, you were not considered white. Mm-hmm. If you were Italian, you weren't considered white until the 1950s. You were other. If you were Jewish, you were just Jewish. And that's why those gates were closed in 24. There were too many Irish people, and then there were way too many Jews and Italians and Polish people. And so this book just continues that. And these things that are happening now, nothing is new. Nothing, unfortunately, is new.
This is how it starts. Since everywhere he goes, Hitler beats down and shoots the Jews, there may be a time when he comes here, to America, to beat down and shoot us. What will our president do then?
The Nazi Party was pretty strong in America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There were 25,000 people in New York City who had a big rally at Madison Square Garden. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting to talk about that, like stripping sort of the humanness of someone and just calling them the Irish, the Jew, the black, whatever it is. It's what Lindbergh does in these speeches, and this when he talks about the Jewish problem, the other. It begins with language.
What is the junk science about a race? It's
eugenics.
It's all eugenics was taught into almost the 30s, but it was a big thing. That's the reason they passed those laws in 24, and it was taught at all the Ivy League institutions. Mm-hmm. So the eugenics movement, which was around the world, and a lot of the people who were writing about it were Americans, actually influenced the National Socialists in Germany. There's a book called The Passing of the Great Race, which you're talking about, by Madison Grant. I think he was involved with the Bronx, the Museum of Natural History. That book was one of Hitler's favorite books. He was an American, and it was used as a defense in the Nuremberg trials.
Yeah.
Okay? Mm-hmm. So this is all connected. Yeah. It's not good guy, bad guy. It's all connected.
And it's also ever evolving. I mean, there was a case in New York, 10 years, where a doctor was, a woman doctor was sterilizing young black women who were maybe addicted, and then it was discovered that she had been going to all these third world countries and just and without telling them, and only came out because one of the girls died because she had sickle cell syndrome, something. But it's just like these things that you think. I remember I had this little time where I was really interested in constitutional law, and I think it was like the eugenics thing was Holmes or like.
Well, it was huge.
It was huge.
It was big.
And it's shocking reading it, but and then to think that it's still.
They reclassified anyone who was like for example, like people like Dante and Raphael and Leonardo da Vinci. They said they were Nordics. The eugenics movement. They said they were not Italians. They were Nordic people because you could tell by the shape of their bone structure and their heads. So even that they assumed to Nordic superiority. It wasn't true, but this is what was accepted.
Charles Lindbergh is a hero.
This is not an evil man, not in any way. Tell me, honey, does that begin to address your fears?